Greetings. It's Friday. It's my favorite time of the week. It's noon-ish. And I have my good friend Max Freeman and Yoga Dude on the line. And greetings. Oh, that's Friday. There we go. 2 greetings today. And guys, I just live streamed probably a 30-second live stream. So forgive me. We had to start. I didn't realize it was live streaming, and Yoga was, cussing me out. And I'm like, that's just not going to work. So anyway, I'm just happy to report that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they just won last night. Ugly game, but I live in Tampa. So that was important for me. By the way, Max, are you there, Max?
I am.
I just want to let you know that I made a decision that when Epic Cash reaches $1, I'm going to get a custom jersey that says 1 on it. And on the back, I'm going to put Epic Cash. How about that?
Nice. Sounds like a great idea.
Well, look, guys, what we're going to talk about today is in the chats, which is t.me/Epic Cash. People are just really wanting to figure out how to articulate Epic Cash. I feel like I'm a little jerky with this video. Let me just do this, and hopefully that help. Now that's better. An elevator. What's an elevator pitch for Epic Cash? And so, Max, I don't know if you want to go first. Yoga, maybe you go second. I'll pull up the back. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, just to help everybody out there articulate what is Epic Cash.
Yeah, so that's a very nuanced question because Epic means different things to different people. We try very hard to be neutral and universally copacetic with everyone, and that's very difficult. We have to leave everything not strictly related to the mission at hand outside, divisive social issues, vaccine, racism, gender, sexuality, all that stuff just completely belongs outside. And so for me, we were talking about this in the ambassadors channel today, t.me/Epic Cash ambassadors. Everyone's welcome to join. It's more of a discussion group for this type of stuff. And so this morning I said, for me, I think of it as a unique type of social network organized around certain principles and mediated through this one particular blockchain. We build trust in each other by not having to trust the system not to screw us over. We're protected in the input of our precious resources, such as energy, cognition, creativity, and so on, by the ironclad, immutable promise of future scarcity.
That is a Max Freeman answer right there. That is excellent. Excellent. Hold on one second. I got to get out of that. So unpack it a little further for us. Just take some of the things that are in there, like scarcity, for example. That's a great word. We hear it a lot in crypto, but this channel being dedicated to newbies, I don't know if people really understand what having in your design built-in scarcity means for your investable dollars.
So in the US dollar paradigm, but issuing entity called the Federal Reserve, it can create however many dollars it wants. There is no upper limit. There's currently, depending on how you measure it, by M1, it's 19.2 trillion. Other measures are much higher. And so in essence, it's an uncapped, infinite supply type of model, whereas Epic is a finite scarcity model where there's only 21 million. Prior distributed electronic cash systems relied on a central server to prove that no new coins beyond what are supposed to exist are created. And the magic of the original Bitcoin design that Satoshi created, which is demonstrably not what we have today in BTC, but it is what we have in Epic, means that you have provable scarcity that you can count on, that there's only going to be 21 million, because you can inspect the open source code yourself. You can look at the math, you can look at the logic. You don't have to trust anyone or anything. And so the 21 million takes until the year 2140 to get to through this process known as a halving, where in the original Bitcoin design, every 4 years, the amount of coins created per day goes down by half every 4 years. And Epic started a little later. So the way, for those who are new, the way we designed Epic is that in the summer of 2028, I think it'll be around June, 2 halvings from now in BTC, the supply of BTC will be 20.4 million and the supply of Epic will be 20.4 million. And Epic has, I think it's 3, maybe 4 halvings along the way to get there. And so in essence, today you have 12 million Epic coins in existence, and the network produces through the mining process 11,520. In October, that's going to go down by half to 5,760. 2 years later, it goes to 2,880. Another 2 years, 1,440. And so 7 years from now, through this halving process, the last one is really going to be explosive, because it's not a halving, it's an 85%ing. As the supply goes from 1440, which it'll be for a little, about 2.5 years, 33 months is the last era before the singularity. You have this massive crush of 1,440 coins per day down to 210 coins per day for 8 billion people. And so those of us who place our trust in this monetary system today know that 7 years from now, there's going to be a lot more dollars and euros and yen and pounds and renminbi and CBDCs out there, because if you can create as many as you want for zero, for nothing, why wouldn't you create as many as possible and give them to yourself and buddies? And that's what we have in the existing system. Here, the scarcity is programmed in and it can never change. So you can trust in it.
Okay, great. Yoga, welcome. It's Friday. How are you?
Right. I'm zesty as hell.
Oh, yeah, we love us some zesty yoga. Yoga, by the way, Yoga and I are going to be on tonight for a casual conversation about all things Epic and whatever else we decide to talk about. We have a special guest who's going to be joining us that is a relative newbie, but a really smart guy. And he has gotten into Epic and has become a super fan. So he has been so darned encouraged about it. And he went through the whole process from beginning to end on, how to buy Epic. And he's like, look, this isn't that hard. This was pretty easy and it was kind of fun. So I wanted to get his perspective. So he'll join us. We're going to start 7 p.m. tonight and we'll go for a couple hours. And like always, when we have these casual, we're going to call it a Zoom in. The latter part of it, we'll put a link into the chat and we welcome you to come on in and join us if you would like. And if you'd like to be on video or if you want to use your thumbnail, that's fine too. So anyway, Yoga, why don't you tell me, if you don't mind, give me if somebody said, what's your Epic Cash elevator pitch? What would you say?
Well, the elevator pitches in general, people come to you with something really obvious and they go with, like, hey, you should buy land because they stopped making it, something like that. It's got to be simple and obvious, right?
Right.
And let's build on that premise is that, let's say you want to tell people to invest in land because they stopped making it. That is inarguable. And that's a solid point. But the land is tied to domains, countries, rulers, etc. Eminent domain, other sneaky ways of losing it. So my pitch for Epic is, first of all, this is private property that cannot be taken away. So invest in private property that cannot be taken away. Not for the greater good, not for any other BS reason, by any benevolent dictator or a collective of comrades. It just cannot be taken away. Okay, so to me, first is it is unconfiscatable. It is scarce, as Max mentioned. Again, they stopped making it. Well, it's still being made, but we know exactly how much is going to be made. So just like not all land has been developed, we got a pretty good idea of how much on this blue, beautiful ball that we all live on, how much land there's left. So it's quantifiable, right? It's scarce. And then a lot of cryptos, once you start talking to people about crypto, there's 11,000 cryptos, give or take. You look for simple benchmarks. So I would pitch that it's lean, fast, and simple. Objectively, it's a tiny blockchain that's only 1.6 gigs. It is literally hundreds of times smaller than competition. Some of which weighs in at 100 gigs, some which like Bitcoin, like 350 gigs, etc. And that gives it more adaptability. It can be plugged into more devices, ultimately into cell phones, for example. So you're investing in something that can have this global reach, with 7 billion devices, across the world, smartphones across the world. It gives this humongous platform. So I'm pitching Epic as a private property on one hand, but also as a platform on another hand. Something that's more powerful than just a product. Essentially, it is money. It is smart private internet money that cannot be confiscated. So whatever is yours is yours. And then it's also accessible to people. So you want to talk about how, to the mainstream, how accessible it is. Well, it can be mined. Today, if you want to mine Bitcoin, you pretty much can't do it unless you buy a very narrowly purposed rig. And this applies to a lot of smaller cryptos too, where, yeah, you can mine it, but you got to invest 10, 15 grand, into a gadget that does nothing but that. Whereas with Epic, it can be mined by normal people. Consider that there are about 1.4 billion gamers out there who could be mining Epic whenever they're not gaming. That gives you a pretty good market base of people who will actually lead the mass adoption. So there's that. And then the final point, privacy. It's been a hot button, and really Epic is offering good enough privacy, especially compared to things like Bitcoin, where, anytime you transact in Bitcoin, you walk out in the middle of a crowded plaza and you yell, "Hey guys, I bought some crypto, I bought some Bitcoin." And every time you spend some, you're yelling, "Hey, I just spent some Bitcoin." And everybody, well, entirely too many people care about that. You draw a lot of unwanted attention, holding any kind of meaningful amount of Bitcoin. With Epic, your business is your business. It's nobody else's business. So again, it's to recap, what I'm pitching is this is private property that cannot be taken away. It is lean, fast, simple, ultralight blockchain that can be installed on mobile phones. It is accessible by normal people. So again, right off the bat, you have about 1.4 billion gamers that could be earning Epic Cash every day, and it's private. It's censorship resistant.
Wait, so they can earn Epic Cash while they're sitting in their mom's basement in their bed underwear?
Sure. As a former gamer, I resent that particular stereotype. A lot of gamers are actually pretty damn cool and amazing people. But it's this. Whenever they're not gaming, they could be earning. They invested all this money in this beautiful, shiny, liquid-cooled PC, okay? And gamers can be on like a lot, but there's downtime when you're not playing, okay? Yeah, maybe you're reheating that ramen or, in your mom's basement or whatever. But whenever you're not gaming, you can and should be mining, is my point.
But I thought even while you were gaming, you could mine Epic Cash, that it's happening in the background, no?
Okay, so if you're a gamer and you're clearly just declared yourself as a non-gamer, but if you're a gamer, every millisecond, every cycle is focused to maximizing your frame rate, your gaming experience. God forbid you got a millisecond lag. All real gamers using wired mice. They don't use Bluetooth because there's a infinitesimal lag. And when you're splitting tens of thousands of seconds and you're paying $5,000 for a top-end system, that only gives you like 2% improvement over a $3,500 system. Last thing you're going to do, trust me, you don't run any background tasks when you're gaming. Okay,
got it.
But when you're not gaming at all, and all of that horsepower is just not doing anything. So
that makes sense.
So that's kind of this is just a baseline elevator pitch, that I would approach. For people who are not gamers, the obvious benefits are this is for everybody, really. It's private property that cannot be taken away. Okay.
Great.
and the rest of it, again, as I mentioned.
Perfect.
And I would also highlight the confiscation resistance, where that specifically comes from. In BTC or Ether, the two most common currencies that people know, everything is based on a public address. And so if somebody knows your address, they can watch your money movements. And with Epic, that simply can't happen. And so when it comes to confiscation resistance, it doesn't matter who wants to take it from you and what their reasons are for wanting to take it. Let's just say, criminality, the $5 wrench attack, you name it. If they don't know you have it, you're much less likely to be a target of that type of approach. And so I think that's going to become really, really crucial in this coming era. There was an article on Cointelegraph this morning talking about how with CBDCs, one of the major benefits from the policy programmer's perspective is that they can take negative interest rates so much lower than they can today in the current system. And I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound great to me as a potential one paying those
sounds like a bail-in. Is that a bail-in?
Well, yeah, I mean, and then there's the other set of risks that you avoid with Epic, just to tick them off. You've got bail-in, bail-out, negative interest rates, fractional reserve, rehypothecation, agency problems like John Corzine, where they blow up a bank with a derivatives bet and then take your money, and then the government insurance fund has literally like a tenth of a cent on the dollar to cover it. The citizens of Cyprus woke up in 2013 or 14, I think it was, on a Monday. Over the weekend, there were two banks. One had had a 40% haircut for depositors. The other had a 60% haircut for depositors. And so we've taken access to financial services that work and that are reasonably functional and priced enough for granted for a long time. And now that's no longer the case, because what we've seen on a nation state level of institutional power being applied to countries to freeze them out through things like sanctions and so on. Trade agreements is kind of a subset of that, or another case. Here you've got that applied to individual people, because in the Netherlands, if you criticize the party line on the restrictions they have over there, they will turn off your bank account. That happened about 2 weeks ago. In Nigeria, if you don't submit to an experimental medical procedure, they won't let you have a bank account. So a significant chunk of 180 million people, if anybody's from Nigeria, please reach out. This is a suitable alternative, and there wasn't that impetus before, but now there is, and there's increasingly gonna be. So the laundry list of negative things that you avoid and don't even have to worry about anymore in your life by moving to Epic is huge. And so when people ask me now, should I buy Epic? I turn it around and say, well, why do you want to own dollars anymore? I mean, I know you need some this month and next month for your rent and food and whatever, but beyond that, these things are a Browning banana. They're creating more and more. At some point, the musical chair game is going to stop, like every other fiat currency ever has. Like, why wait? I mean, we know what's going to happen. It's happened to 450 fiat currencies in the past century. So what's the question? What's the benefit of waiting until next month? It's not going to, I mean, maybe it gets cheaper, but do you really want to try and time the market? So I just think, it's our time.
And one thing I just want to add, when, part of my pitch, when I'm talking about private property that cannot be taken away, and somebody with Bitcoin, let's say, would say, well, Bitcoin can be taken away. I mean, they don't know my keys, I have my, my cold wallet or whatever. Well, the taken away has many meanings. It's not necessarily that they'll take it away, all of it from you, but they can blacklist it. And it's as good as you not having it. You're not going to be able to move it. You're not going to be able to spend it. With Epic, you don't have that issue. It's private.
Right. Cool. All right. I've been thinking about this a lot because I like to create succinct communication. So I would say, first of all, to truly understand Epic Cash, you need to understand what Epic stands for. And Epic, E, is electronic, P, private, I, internet, C, cash. Epic is electronic private internet cash. So my question to you watching is, have you ever in your life used the green stuff, the green cash, right? That's private to you. I don't care if somebody has binoculars, you know, they're not going to be able to see what you do with your cash. That ultimately becomes a private transaction between you and somebody else that you both mutually agree if you want to exchange that. So there's no surveillance on your paper cash. So people get caught up a little bit when we talk about privacy and why would you want to be private, or privacy coins are going to be banned and all of this. And my response is, you know, like they banned cash, green cash, paper cash, trash. No, it's just electronic private internet cash. And why not? Why shouldn't our transactions be private? So that leads me to a couple of sentences, and I'll just read it here. Epic Cash is Bitcoin perfected, benefiting from 10 years of advanced technology built into the design to create private, fast, almost fee-less transactions that nobody can screw with. It's that private property thing no one can take away that Yoga was alluding to. Epic is a perfect store of value. It is the future of money. Now, that would be my quick, that's what I would copy and paste and send to people who want a quick brief. But I do want to come back to something that I posted yesterday, because when I started to think about it, and you look at Bitcoin as the original standard, that's what started this all, right? And you think about all of the 10,000 coins that are out there today, and you think about all the different blockchains, and you think about the fact that nobody has taken Bitcoin head on. So here's what I'm going to say now. We're the only blockchain that decided to take Bitcoin on. The only tech team with the massive set of cojones to think we could be better than Bitcoin by every measure and mean it. We're the only cryptocurrency that is over-delivered by every measure, and nobody knows about us yet. And that's where we are today. I will tell you, over this last week, I've gotten up with my cups of coffee, and I have gone to Vite wallet, my Vite wallet, and I went in there to the markets, and I saw Epic Cash trading at under 30 cents. When I look at that, it is just mind-boggling to me. So I have been in the process of pivoting out of my positions with my other coins and just going in, and you can go look at the chart, see a little up, the next morning up. That's me putting my money where my mouth is, that Epic Cash is going to be the future of money. Imagine if you got Bitcoin at 30 cents. Well, I'm not imagining. I got perfected Bitcoin at 30 cents. And I encourage you all to go find the video below, why I like Epic Cash and how to buy it, and go through the very simple instructions on doing it. Be that person who gets in on the ground floor of something special. Get perfected Bitcoin at 30 cents, because I know what's coming. I'm part of these kind of inside baseball calls of what is around the corner. And man, oh man, it is so exciting that I mean, I just want to scream to yesterday. Yesterday, I went to my, I had my dog groomed. And the last time I had him groomed, I told my groomer that I would like you to download the Vite wallet, send me your Vite address for Epic Cash, Epic 002. And I'm going to match the tip that I provided you today in Epic Cash. And that was like 6 weeks ago. And I did it. Well, yesterday I had Zammy groomed again, my dog. And I asked her before, I said, would you like your tip with the green stuff, or would you prefer Epic Cash? Didn't even think about it. Didn't even think about it. It was Epic Cash. And so, I mean, I can't wait, because this wonderful groomer is about 8 months pregnant. And I told her, you're going to find that these last couple of tips are going to pay for your son or daughter's college education. And she says, I believe you. So that's how we get adoption, folks. You know, one person at a time that you're going to pay with green cash. Why not introduce them to Epic Cash? And there is a ton of resource to be able to help you. If you go to t.me/Epic Cash, get on in that community. You'll have every question answered, or they will direct you to another channel. But here's the one, epic.tech, epic.tech. Sorry, my ex-wife is calling, so I'm not answering that one.
My mom is after me to clean the basement, so that's my story.
Right. So anyway, that was my riff. I told Max, as God is my witness, yesterday, did I not communicate to you and say, I have never, ever been more on fire about Epic Cash than I am today? And that was yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm getting a lot of very heartwarming DMs with similar stories. It's a very special type of process. It's taken so long to get to this point here, where I think we're really experiencing critical mass. The physics oriented among us know that a tennis ball size of plutonium can end up being a fireball miles wide under the right conditions. Otherwise, it's just an inert lump of metal. Or you have sodium, you have chlorine, they're kind of just meh by themselves, but you put them together and you have delicious salt. It's the same kind of thing here. Epic without EUSD is a lot less useful than Epic with EUSD. Epic without ECR as a governance and equity token that enables us to monetize our contributions in an active way, separately from what goes on at the coin level, is another powerful tool. And so as all these different things slot into place, I think it's likely to surprise a lot of people. Really, the scope of the aspiration here. I mean, really, we started from a multi-decade, who do we want to be when we grow up, in the best case scenario type of dreaming process, and then just carefully, methodically over years, quietly built up strength. So it's really just what is seen as the tiny tip of the iceberg. And as we're showing more of our hand, the reception is increasingly positive. There's a lot of catalysts on the horizon.
Yoga, what are your thoughts? Little inside baseball on what you think is the future of the next little sprint.
Well, to me, what I'm seeing is, can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing is kind of what Max was talking about, is the mass adoption is taking place. I mean, the community is growing. People are beginning to understand the value proposition better and better and better. And it's really, you can look at it from different groups' perspective. And this is something that I want to talk to you about later on in our next episode. But it's beginning to gel within very different groups. Epic is like money. It doesn't really care who's using it. And we have these nuclei of interest in very, very different demographics. And a lot of these demographics, the thing that excites me is people who are not crypto people are beginning to pick up on Epic, on the value of Epic. And the reason why it excites me is I'm having a little bit of a deja vu, because I've been there. I bought a decade ago with Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And it was that same aha moment for a lot of people, because back then none of us were crypto people. no such thing. And we had this
Right.
wonderful thing, and we're running around with it. And back then, this was before Bitcoin got corrupted and before, the Satoshi vision got derailed. We're still, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and innocent, running around with this newborn thing, saying, "Hey, this is kind of special. This is kind of cool." And a lot of non-technical people, they're saying like, "Well, what can you do with it?" And started doing use cases, and people started connecting it like, well, you can give somebody a token of appreciation with Bitcoin for telling a joke. And we thought this was like before, mass adoption of likes and kudos and, thumbs up kind of things. It's like, it's a token of appreciation, like giving a tip at a restaurant. And then some people were brave enough. They said, you know what, I'll sell you my keyboard for some Bitcoin. And it was like, holy crap, somebody's taken something tangible. And it was at that moment where the value started crystallizing, it started solidifying from purely numeric imagination to something connected to the real world. And it wasn't just about goods, it was about services, it was about all of these things. And I'm seeing this with Epic, and considering how we differ from Bitcoin, considering how much more evolved Epic is from Bitcoin. I mean, we had 10 years to improve. Of course, it's got to be, the privacy and censorship resistance is one thing. That's a very tangible benefit, increasingly so. And again, for a lot of people, some people have a kind of a hard time connecting that benefit because they live in what they believe in a very safe environment. And as we know, even safe environments can change overnight. Ask people in Lebanon or some of the other parts of the world. But the benefit of privacy, the benefit of censorship, resistance are becoming more and more and more visual every day, more and more tangible. But then also think about the people that are living in oppressive regimes, like people in Venezuela who were extremely non-technical. They were, and I'm not undermining the tremendous educated people of Venezuela, but what I'm talking about, the specificity of crypto education. Venezuela was essentially forced to get into crypto because their domestic currency collapsed, their economy collapsed, and crypto became an overnight use case. It was that one of those cataclysmic changes that was imposed on that society, and it took off. So for people in safe regions, well, it's kind of a harder sell, but they're beginning to understand. For people in more brutal regions, it's already something that people have been waiting for, and this is the next step. The fact that the blockchain is light is key because it allows us to implement it on mobile devices. This is our next plan. This is our next big expansion leap, and we haven't done that yet. And here we are at 30 cents with one exchange, with all of this tech that's just down the road, being executed gradually. Okay, so, and we're still capped at 21 million life emission. So the value proposition is pretty obvious to people who are not even computer people, but you have a checking account, you can put this together. Okay, so it's exciting to see how this coalesces from a concept into a tangible reality. I tipped my the person that cuts my hair, I tipped her with Epic Cash, for example, and she was very receptive to that. We have content supporters who are tipping, who are getting tipped in Epic by the grateful community. That's a foundation. That's your tangible, because ultimately for any crypto to become truly successful, the final step in mass adoption is supplanting fiat, is replacing fiat, is not depending on a fiat bridge. The point at which your crypto is taken as a payment for goods and services without you having to convert to the hyperinflating fiat currency, that is the point at which banks will fail and establishment will fail, and the people will be empowered.
So it's fair to say, I just wrote this down because I like what you said. Epic Cash supplanting fiat is our mission at the end of the day.
I don't even think it's our mission per se. It's not a stated mission. What I think
It's
it
our
is
destiny.
it's
Our destiny. I like that.
It's an
I love that.
inevitable. Yeah, I think it's an inevitability.
Fiat is
eventual
killing
inevitability.
itself. We don't have to supplant it. It's committing suicide, and we're just peacefully coexisting.
And it always does, doesn't it? Historically.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too dramatic, because a lot of people, if you get too dramatic about this, okay, people will tell you, you know what, dude? Okay, a stack of $100 bills over your crypto. Screw you. Okay, I'll take a stack of $100 bills, because today, right now, it gets me what I want. Okay?
Right.
So to just dismiss fiat completely is a ridiculous notion, and it removes credibility from a person who's making a statement. My statement is not that we're going to kill fiat like right now, and it's just going to be crypto from here on. That would be very naive to say. What I'm talking about is a gradual process, a creeping change that is occurring, and it is inevitable. It's like water rising before a tsunami. Actually, it flushes away, and then it starts coming in and in and in. It's a process somewhat like that, where it's a very gradual but a very powerful and ultimately unstoppable. It's a question of time. It's not a question of if, it's a question of how long will it take to get this level of mass adoption, because it'll accelerate. As we've seen with crypto, it accelerates. With Bitcoin, it accelerates. Despite its flaws, despite its being first to market, despite having 10 years, Bitcoin has taken a sweet time to get to a certain point. But it's a growing phenomenon. It's a globally accepted phenomenon for all the wrong reasons, because the very people that it was going against, the bankers, the excessive government controls and things like that, they managed to, for lack of a better word, make it their bitch today, and they're pimping it out. Bitcoin today is being essentially pimped out, and its values have been, just walked on.
Bitcoin is absolutely not what people think Bitcoin is. The normal person.
It mutated, and it got hijacked. That's the best analogy that I could think of. The vision got hijacked. Okay, if Lenin and Trotsky, way back, 100 years ago, maybe had some kind of an inkling of some kind of a positive idea of getting away from monarchy into communism or socialism, well, that idea got lost in the execution and created 70 years of strife. So to me,
I like that. I think that's, it's almost, there's a lot of freedom seeking people who are interested in cryptos that are private by default, and for a lot of good reasons. But I like your hijacking analogy, because you could think about this wonderful, wonderful constitution that we have. And over the last 200 and however 50, whatever it is,
right,
200 plus years, it has slowly been hijacked by, I would submit, socialism, communism, Marxism. I don't know. It's just ankle biting along the way.
Erodes. Things tend to erode. Entropy, entropy comes in, but it's not even entropy. It's other enlightened self-interest that tries to attach itself. It's almost parasitic in nature, where its systems tend to get hijacked by parasites. And that's
what's important for people to hear is that's what happened with Bitcoin. Just as the Constitution has eroded over time, Bitcoin has eroded over time in its original vision, which is why the engineering behind Epic Cash, the inspiration behind it, the discipline behind it. I will tell you that I've been party to some calls that we have this V3 that you've been hearing about, version 3.0. When that is released, that's like release the Kraken, and all kinds of other good things happen. Well, frustratingly, why aren't we releasing it? Well, here's why. Because Max and the team and Yoga are like, slow down. We have one last process. And that is, we are going to hire some tech engineers to come in and completely beat up the entire code. We are going to start from the beginning. We are going to go to the end. And we're not just going to have one. We're going to have a team of it. Now, that is the kind of discipline to be able to put off when moon, to be able to say, yeah, it's, look, I remember it was 50 cents that was my original basis, and it's come back to 30 cents. It's even dipped a little bit, but I loved earlier you talked about the tsunami, and in my mind I was kind of giggling because I was like getting this visual of Epic Cash is like that tsunami going from 50 cents to 30, and now it's about ready to go.
That's it, really. And you talk about V3. This is one of those things where we really want to make sure that we release a quality product. Okay.
Yeah.
We've tested it from different angles. We beat on it, because we're talking about an ecosystem here. So we're talking about miners, we're talking about users. Okay.
Yes.
So there are different things to consider, and it is a delicate balance because it is a proof of work. The process has to be, it has to be fair to miners. It has to be fair to users. It has to be sustainable. It has to be as flawless as possible. Yes, software bugs happen. Ethereum seems to have a bug every month. Okay, but nobody really cares. But but they have a critical mass already where it's kind of a self-adjusting, self-forgiving system, and people just kind of suck it up and move on.
Too big to fail.
We don't want to put people through unnecessary strife, and we're able to mitigate that. We're able to have a higher level of certainty by making sure that we go through additional round of testing, we go through additional code review, and it's just these are incremental safeties that we're putting in place,
right,
to make sure that we're as good, as close to perfection. And having been in software business, I don't know, for over 30 years, yeah, bugs happen, sure, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we've done everything that we possibly could to make sure that we release a solid product.
Hey, I have a question from the chat.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to have to call him back. I know TCV has talked about the BTC civil wars. Who was fighting?
BTC civil wars? Well, look, how far back do you want to go? I mean, there's always somebody fighting. Okay, whenever you get something that's so big, it generates all these different special interest groups, each one with their own agenda. And it happens in any system once it gets to a certain size. There's the big blockers, the guys that wanted to have bigger blocks, to be able to cram more transactions into it. There are all these. They're to oversimplify, they're kind of two ideological streams that tend to generate fighting in BTC community. Part of it is technologists and part of it is ideologists. Okay. And it gets ugly whenever those people, it's kind of like people are arguing about operating systems. It's like, look, we don't discuss religions or operating systems because people tend to get really excessively passionate in both cases. Yeah. So this to me with Bitcoin, it's really, the community was divided, on the approach. And anytime anything happens where a particular technology reaches a choke point, there will be conflicting ideologies. With Ethereum, there are conflicting ideologies with like the DAO hack way back, and that to this day we have Ethereum and we have classic Ethereum as a result of that, because the blockchain was split. And some community chose to follow, the classic vision, and some community chose to follow the fixed vision. That's an inevitability. It doesn't really pertain to what I'm talking about. BTC being hijacked. BTC was hijacked not so much technologically, which that's more of a manifestation of solving a technological problem. But what I'm talking about, BTC as a whole was hijacked by the establishment. If you want to talk about it more specifically, the hijacking came from the banking system. The hijacking came from the government system. At first, they said, "Oh my God, this is terrible. This is the system that creates this value that we're not controlling it, and it's anonymous, and all of this," because people in the very beginning thought that it was actually anonymous. And
right.
that, and you got guys like Jamie Dimon, and you got all these other, banker major mojos, throwing their weight around, saying that anybody who's touching Bitcoin, if I find anybody in my corporation that touches Bitcoin, well, that son of a bitch is going to be fired. Okay. Same Jamie Dimon later, publishes a book about how freaking awesome Bitcoin is, and he talks about how you're irresponsible, fiscally irresponsible moron if you're not hedged at least like 10% of your investments into crypto. And the path from the complete denial and hatred of technology to this complete embracement of technology came through their realization of, holy crap, you know what? Instead of fighting it, guys, we can exploit the crap out of it. Look at this stuff. Okay. It's totally trackable. So we can ID all these people, and the government goes, shit, if we can ID them, we can tax them. It's like, okay, great. So, and hey, these morons think it's totally private. So let them go on with that, and we're going to use this to solve crimes, but also we're going to use this to, well, just collect taxes and control people. Okay, that's great. So the bankers started realizing this. And they also realized that, where if SEC controls stock market, and you can't pump and dump stuff, well, Bitcoin turned into this perfect little sandbox where people can step outside the rules and abuse the rules and test things and make a ton of money and get away with it because it was not regulated for so long. And an example of that I'll give you is, how many times did China make Bitcoin illegal?
Right.
And that is a dump.
Every other month.
And they get in and they buy. And then they go, well, we didn't mean to say that it was illegal. What we meant to say was it needs more regulation. And then and it starts going up. And then they say, well, but not only that it needs more regulation, it needs sensible regulation so that it doesn't choke the creativity. So they keep stroking it to make it go up again. And then they load the gun and they go, but it becomes overbearing and too controlling. So we are going to shut it down.
Wait, you're saying they may have been so nefarious to actually manipulate a pump and dump, and so that
they realize that they can do this again and again and again and again without any repercussions, and it doesn't have impact on their direct economy. So you can't do this with a stock market with any country, but it created this own autonomous sandbox where people can just do this kind of stuff and just milk it for all it's got.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason why Bitcoin not only allowed to exist today, but is actually encouraged, because the hijacking is complete. They figured it out. They got derivatives on top of it. They got derivatives on top of those derivatives. And it is a ride, baby. And the Wall Street is in it, and China is in it, and everybody's in it.
Max, let me ask you, let's fast forward 10 years with Epic Cash. Why can't they do the same thing with Epic Cash?
Why can't who do what? We covered a lot of
the banksters, the people who run the show, who let's say the SEC or
Sure. Okay. So there's multiple vectors of control. We're running to the end here, so I'll try to be concise because I have a bunch of notes from the prior subjects that I want to get out. And we're trying to be more disciplined about not running long. But there are so many different control levers that are in play. It's difficult to even know where to start. At the mining level, you talk about Venezuela having crypto as its source of freedom. Well, you need to import specialized mining equipment from China. And so at the port, it can be seized, confiscated, taxed, regulated, censored, blacklisted, denied, whatever. So the inability to do the computation without special equipment, and you need an industrial scale facility to make it work. El Salvador is talking about burying a BTC mining farm inside a volcano. That is not a joke. You have to soak these things in liquid cooling mineral oil type of things to get that last few points of performance. And so when you have industrial scale mining facilities, that means what can happen, as happened in China a few months ago, where they said, now we're not kidding anymore. It really is illegal to mine. And 54% of BTC hash rate blinked out overnight as China unplugged. And of course, that causes chaos in the block timing because there's less hash and it only adjusts once every 2 weeks. Oh, well, gee, if I'm a derivatives trader, I know how to play that, right? So you've got the market manipulation, you've got the control vectors, you've got the backroom dealing about Circle gets to be a stable coin, but Tether doesn't. And then those companies, because they are companies, have to blacklist funds that when they get a request, okay, this guy is a bad guy, we need to freeze his money. You've got those same control mechanisms as the existing banking system. The value of BTC at $50,000 is not supported by its use as a transactional currency. It was $62 for a transaction, which takes 10 minutes, by the way, if you get it through in the first block.
So just to ground that. So if I want to buy a cup of coffee that's $5, and let's just say that Starbucks took both Bitcoin and Epic Cash, tell me what would happen with both those transactions. And we have 5 minutes before we need to hang.
Today it's lower, but in April of this year, it was $62. To send $5 net, it would have been $67. The corresponding figure got up to $81 in December 2017. So it's prohibitively expensive. They're capacity constrained in layer 1. So the scaling goes to layer 2, where it's custodial, permissioned, and a trust kind of a deal like we're seeing in El Salvador with their Chivo thing, which is absolutely not Bitcoin. And I encourage everyone to look into it. George Orwell's quote, imagine a boot stamping on the face of humans forever. If you want to imagine government stamping on the face of your Bitcoin forever, ask yourself if you want to live in a crypto world that looks like El Salvador today. And 67% of people protest in the streets, the sweltering El Salvadorian sun, saying they prefer the US dollar, the same one that's abused them for decades. And they don't want Bitcoin, they want the dollar more. What does that tell you? So in our last 5 minutes, I just wanted to cover, I'll run through them. We're committed to high assurance.
Wait. Yeah. You got to answer the question. I'm at Starbucks.
Okay.
It's going to take 10 minutes for the Bitcoin transaction to go through to pay for my coffee. So my coffee is going to get cold, and it's going to cost me at its peak $67 for that cup of coffee, because there's a $62 transaction fee. And with Epic Cash, they get it how quickly, and how much would it cost me? What would that $5 cup of coffee cost me?
So you can do 50 transactions for a penny right now.
Okay,
and
so
we have
1/50th
triple
of a penny.
Yeah, so 0.002 cents. Maybe I'm missing a zero, but it's 50 for a penny. It's essentially free. It could be free, but that would be a Sybil attack vector. So it's basically just a minor speed bump. It's not even noticeable. When BTC is 100,000, we're going to see $100 plus transaction fees as far as the eye can see. And 10 years from now, they're committed to that same place. They want to scale on layer 2. That's a feature for them, not a bug. We want to scale on layer 1. And so we've already got triple the capacity of BTC in a 1 minute block. We know how to take that much faster, down to 45 and 30 and probably even 15. And we know how to scale the block size and do cut through across blocks and all kinds of other stuff. Our ECK testnet, we're going to demonstrate, we hope, a 64x over the course of a couple of steps improvement to our transactional capacity, which comes out to 1,000 per second. Within 3 to 5 years, we think we can do 80% of Visa on chain on L1 for under a fraction of a penny, and probably 90% of people will be free. And then, like, if you're doing high frequency trading and it's really worth it, it's got to be there, the equivalent of a FedEx priority overnight, then sure, pay 50 cents or $1 or something. But you're going to see $1,000 BTC fees. ETH is crazy right now, and they're painted in a corner, and we have scaling for days.
Well, let me just share that yesterday when I picked up my dog, I asked her to send me real quick from her cell phone. We were standing right there, her address. So she sent me her address. I then went in and I sent her tip, and I said, open your wallet. And I mean, within seconds, she opened her wallet and it was there. I mean, it was amazing.
It works.
Yep.
I'm now an Epic Cash nerd. Okay, 1 minute. We need to wrap it up.
Okay.
Go.
Yeah. All right. So we're committed to high assurance. That's why we chose Rust as part of the V3. Why it's not done yet. We want to expand the scope of our automated test framework. We call it cucumber testing. That's really the best way to make sure bugs don't happen. Is just do it programmatically through the code. We also want to improve our release notes and better coordination with our pools, of which there are 4, the exchange VTEX. And there's also about a dozen services that rely on the network. And we're trying to be more respectful of their business processes. And based on feedback, that's something that we heard we could do better. So that's what we're working on the V3 side. The next thing is that what does Epic provide? It's really unstoppable money. It is more unstoppable than BTC and ETH, which can be brought low more easily under more scenarios, and you can be prevented from using them. The network not stopped, but you can be stopped in more ways than Epic. So we can unpack that over time. The takeaway is Epic is unstoppable money. And then where we are right now in our journey, I look at it as exponentials meeting exponentials, and we are at or we are about to hit an inflection point. And finally, there's a great quote from someone that made a lot of money. I can't remember his name, one of those intergenerational dynastic legacy type of families. It's buy when there's blood in the streets, even if it's your own. And so if you have as much Epic as you want to have already, good for you. You're strapped in, find a way to get more involved through ECR and tweak up the active participation. And if you're not, what are you waiting for? Is it going to be cheaper in the future when more of these things happen? Like, are you thinking it's going to die? What are you really waiting for? And what's the worst that can happen? I think people need to start looking at what are the reasons not to have at least one coin or whatever. I mean, everybody can come up with a buck.
Then you could get 3 coins. Just saying.
Not for long.
All right. Yoga, I'll see you this evening, 7 o'clock.
That's right.
7 to 9 p.m. Everyone, be there. And if you want to join us, latter part of the call, or second hour, I should say, we will drop a Zoom invite link in, and we welcome welcome all. So, okay, guys, everyone who's in the chat, thank you. Thanks for the good questions, Sang Freud, and Monkman. I see you're in there. Always great to see you. So we will see you next week at noon for our Epic Cash live stream. All right, guys.